Ons gesels vanaand oor die toekoms en die belangrike besluite wat entrepreneurs en sakelui vandag moet neem om sukses vorentoe te verseker. Zama, Morné spoke about this new future thinking and this hybrid of skills that people will actually need, and it sounds to me like technology is only going to become more part of our lives rather than a less part of our lives. Don't you think that because technology is coming to the forefront of our lives, that, you know, our need for human interaction is actually going to increase?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the most important things for people to remember is that not everything is going to be faster. Some things are going to actually be slower. The pace at which we're going to be able to deal with these realities is not going to be equal. So the move, for example, for people who worked in corporate onto these platforms that Morné was referring to was quite quick because they were ready. But the other forms of engaging, the human need, the transference of emotion and expression, we haven't quite figured out how to do that over a device yet. And that is going to be quite a chronic thing. And that's part of why you're seeing this increase of anxiety and people really needing the emotional support because of the distance. Because inherently human beings are about belonging and connection. Okay. So absolutely, we can definitely anticipate that.
Morné, where do you think, where are people going to find this new spaces for social interaction?
They will have to create it themselves. I agree with Zama. The technology is really no substitute for the kind of emotional and energy exchange between people. And I think the important thing to understand when studying the future is that it's really not binary. So, for example, when we discovered the car, we didn't lose the bicycle. When we discovered the motorbike, we didn't lose the bicycle. In fact, both of those are now bigger industries since the first discovery. So the way the future unfolds is actually to present a spectrum, a menu of possibility. And so to simply argue that everything's going to move online is really naive in a sense. All that's really happening is that online is becoming a much bigger part of the menu. And I think discerning organizations understand that certain kinds of processes are very well suited to technology intermediation, whereas others require face-to-face, eyeball-to-eyeball, let me look you in the eyes and feel your energy kind of work.
Absolutely. Zama, you concur?
Yes, I absolutely do. I think one of the most important things for a lot of us to remember is the first version of anything, of any invention, is seldom the one that we live with. And I want to build on the example that Morné is creating. The first car, the T model, when you think about the cars we drive today, it's almost laughable that we started at winding up the engine. So when we think about what this world of online and technology will look like, let's accept that it won't actually sit in me sitting right in front of a device having to wait for you to speak and the next person to speak. There will be a growth in the intuition that we can build onto it, but more importantly, there will be the clarity that this is not useful for this human interaction. And humans are very good at deciding things that are constructive and not constructive for them. So I wouldn't stress about technology taking us over just yet.
Morné, is there something that's happened in the pandemic and the way that you've seen how humans interact and how they behave now that kind of makes you excited about the future?
There is certainly much that makes me excited, and particularly a lot of the work that we do has to do with creative expression. And so it was really fascinating to see people reverting to art, you know, picking up that piano and painting that half-painted painting and reading that poem you've left for a while and going back to that novel and even sort of producing your own art. And so I'm very excited about the idea that people are finding, again, artistic expression because, in fact, that's a very important part of solving complex problems, to think in creative ways. There, of course, have also been the downside, you know, people who have panicked, have been irrational, have really kind of shown some of the shadow side of what we as humans are capable of. But I think overall, we've really dealt with this remarkably adaptably and at an enormously rapid pace.
Yeah. So I want to think, if I look at some of my peers and friends, is they kind of don't want to go back to a normal way of working. How that's going to cause some friction, I think, and now at the moment is the employees have kind of moved on. They said, well, I'm enjoying this, but the business culture isn't moving, you know, in the same direction. That's going to cause some interesting friction.
Absolutely. And I think one of the sources of friction is actually going to come from employees realizing that the permanent state of working in this new environment is actually not enjoyable. There's a need for the company culture, the proximity that people, part of the benefit of the proximity when we do all work in common spaces is the ability to shape a culture of an organization, that we contribute to something that we feel like we belong to, and that belongs to all of us and that we're a part of. And I think it's something that in a crisis like the one we're experiencing with COVID-19 is easy to underestimate, because we found that feeling in other places. We're spending more time with our family members. But the truth and reality is when we do go back to a different form of productivity, I think you'll find that people will miss that. They'll miss their colleagues. They'll miss the rhythm and the pace of what their work look like. And like I was saying, I think the change feels immediate, but I think the change to a large extent is going to be temporary. And there will be a blend of what we're living with rather than the one or the other.
Absolutely. Morné and Zama, thank you so much for your time.